Welcome to it. June the 6th. We're reading from the Daily Stoic today. The subject is when to stick and when to quit. And I'm not doing it on my own. I'm very happy to be joined on the show by Kelly from KBN Coaching. We've had her on the show before, but we figured it would be nice to have her back. So here's the thing. We have a meaningful conversation, not a long conversation, but a good one. And it's all to do with how do you know whether you should stick with a course of action or whether you should, change course, stop the course, go back, whatever. And what we decided to do is, given the terrible video quality that we were experiencing, we decided to change course. We decided to quit and rather go with audio. So that's what we did. We had a recording session, more of a podcast kind of vibe. But I think the content is still there and it's still meaningful. So I hope you enjoy it. And I'll see you during the show. I think it's going to be a good one. Enjoy. Welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Today you're going to see no visuals. And that's because there's a storm in France and that's preventing us from having visual contact with Kelly from KBN Coaching. But we're very excited to have you on board here, Kelly. It's good to have you back. We've spoken once before, but we had visuals. Today it's just audio. How's it going over there?
Oh, well, Loic, that's the weather. It can be a problem when you're deep in the Pyrenees in south of France. But I'm glad to be here.
Oh, that's great. And under lockdown conditions? Because we certainly are.
No, lockdown has finished in France since a few weeks now. So we're getting back to the new normal, as everybody is calling it.
Oh, that's nice. So they've relaxed lockdown requirements here in South Africa. So we kind of can walk around. We just don't have access to restaurants and a few other things. But by and large, I guess the economy has been released.
Okay. Good to hear.
So today being June the 6th, and we are reading from the Daily Stoic, written by Ryan Holiday, basically 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. So we are in June, and June is the month of problem solving. It's the second part of the book, the discipline of action. So this deals with action. Today we're talking about problem solving, and specifically on June the 6th, we talk about when to stick and when to quit. What are your thoughts on that just in general, like overview? Like if I say when to stick, when to quit, what comes to your mind?
It's an important question, isn't it? I don't know if it comes to us as clearly as that at certain times. But I think the first response that would come to me is listen to yourself.
We generally have the answer inside, right?
Yeah, totally. That's how I see it.
Okay. Well, Seneca, in his treatise on tranquility of mind, has something to say about that. Shall I read? The format that we normally have is I'll read the first part and you can then read Ryan Holiday's part. Great,
no problem.
Okay, so Ryan Holiday has his take, and then what we'll do is we'll basically give some examples, some experiences, some insights in terms of what we think about this whole lot. Okay, so I'll start. And Seneca says, think of those who, not by fault of inconsistency, but by lack of effort, are too unstable to live as they wish, but only live as they have begun. Seneca. All right, what does Ryan Holiday have to say?
Okay, off we go. In The Dip, Seth Godin draws an interesting analogy from the three types of people you see in line at the supermarket. One gets in a short line and sticks to it no matter how slow it is or how much faster the others seem to be going. Another changes lines repeatedly based on whatever he thinks might save a few seconds. And a third switches only once, when it's clear her line is delayed and there is a clear alternative, and then continues with her day. He's urging you to ask, which type are you? Seneca is also advising us to be this third type. Just because you've begun down one path doesn't mean you're committed to it forever, especially if that path turns out to be flawed or impeded. At that same time, this is not an excuse to be flighty or incessantly non-committal. It takes courage to decide to do things differently and to make a change, as well as discipline and awareness to know that the notion of, oh, but this looks even better, is a temptation that cannot be endlessly indulged either.
Wow. Wow. You know, you should do like voiceovers and things like that. I think your voice would be perfect.
Thank you, Loic.
Yeah. So how to tell the difference? I think that's quite a big challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a challenge, knowing the difference. But do you think it's a problem that we change direction? I mean, when we often change direction when we're looking for a destination. There's several routes sometimes, isn't there? And we have to adjust our path sometimes. Do you think that's a problem?
Yes and no. So I think what we can do is look at it from the perspective of you're the perspectives lady, so you're going to give us your guidance on that. But what I will say is that I did have a look at Seth Godin's work, and in terms of distinguishing the difference between, I guess, a cul-de-sac and simply something that one should change direction slightly. What he identified in terms of the dip, what he calls the dip, and the dip is basically that part of your journey from being sort of a starter to mastery, and it's basically the part of the journey that is the slog, if you can imagine that. You know, it's kind of difficult and you're just going along feeling like you're not making any progress. And the reason I mention it is because that's typically where a lot of us quit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because maybe quitting is the right thing to do. That's why I was wondering how do you tell the difference? Because you could zigzag along, constantly changing your approach or constantly changing whatever, in and out of a career or a course of action, a strategy, whatever the case may be. And so it's not really clear. Did you have some guidance on that? Have you got thoughts on how one can tell which path they're on?
Yeah, Loic. Well, first of all, I totally agree that the image you gave it's totally like the learning journey for anybody learning a language, isn't it? It's not a straight line going upwards. It's up and then plateau and then up again and then another plateau. It's definitely not linear. And I'm not against adjusting our direction, but as you said, not doing it all the time. So coming back to what I said before, yes, it's really knowing how to listen to ourselves, and I'd say asking the right questions. Because often we'll just be thinking, well, I'm not making any progress, so maybe I need to change, maybe I need to quit. But do we know what's essential to us? Have we asked that question? What do we really want? And will I regret this based on what I really want? So first, asking the right questions. Then I'd say measuring our progress meaningfully. So, because sometimes we think we're not progressing, but we actually are. It's just that we're looking more ahead of us, the gap between where we want to be and where we are, instead of looking at how much we've gained behind us. Okay, how far we've come. So, are we measuring our progress in the right way? Are we getting the right feedback? And if we're measuring it properly, then we should know what our next action will be. What do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? What should I start doing? What should I stop doing? Once again, important questions. And then maybe at the end as well is not thinking that the grass is always greener on the other side. We've all got that somewhere, haven't we, in our lives, where we think it's better on the other side of the fence. But if we stop being in other people's business, looking at what they're doing and comparing ourselves, and just taking care of what we're doing and what's essential to us, staying in our own business, then I think that's also very important as well. Listening to ourselves, knowing the difference between, is it fear that's motivating my decision to quit or to stay, or is it passion? There are two ends of the stick. Which end of the stick am I looking at? I think we've mentioned this before.